What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'll break down what's happening with the economic calendar thus far, what's going on with some big earnings that just came out, what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I break into detail this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500 into the account, you are guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 free stocks. This offer ends very, very soon, in just a couple of days, by tomorrow. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening to the market. Looking at SPY from a technical standpoint, you can see something very interesting. This thing reversed off 510, started this decline, making these lower highs and lower lows. And then once we reached this 505 area, this thing's attempting to base over here. And I think as long as we could hold this, there is going to be an attempt to rebound. If we fail to hold it, then yes, we could turn back to bearish. We have to wait and see as time goes on. There is some life on the chart, and there are some signals that suggest it could try to bounce. So I'll break down how this is going to panning out over the next couple of minutes. Let's first talk about some data. So the GDP numbers came out, got a 3.2% growth rate, which is actually aligned with the consensus in the forecast, super close. Everything else when it comes to the GDP price index, this was aligned with the expectations at 1.7%. So prices are a little bit harder than expected, but the overall growth rate was aligned with expectations, and the market is getting a somewhat positive reaction to this. The goods trade balance overall was a little bit lower than expected, but it's just very minor. Besides that, we're going to be looking at the estimates for core CPI. We watch to see how this looks like, especially as it's coming out for tomorrow. I'm sorry, it's core PCE, not CPI. For today, just know a couple of things. Later on, we have the 17-week bill auction coming out at 11:30 a.m. And finally, at noon to 12:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Bostic from the Fed giving a speech, Collins and Williams. So a couple of Fed speakers at the end of the day, but everything else is quite minor. I also want to note that we had a couple of earnings coming out for today. We have more earnings, more fun ones coming out after the market closes. We have Mara, Snow, CRM, aka Salesforce, and then AMC. So looking at Novavax, they missed their quarterly earnings, and they actually saw narrower losses than expected as they're trying to slash their costs. You can see right here, the loss per share was worse than expected. Revenue was a little bit worse than expected, and their full year guidance was not the strongest. So that's the reason why the share price ended up sinking very hard. This is actually very interesting so far. And with that happening, that's why we ended up seeing this big change. Now, a couple of things to know about the market before we end up opening. I just wanted to note that the first thing is we're kind of mixed up as we saw the IWM was actually trying to push. S&P 500 tried to push. Nasdaq was up a little bit. Dow actually slipped a little bit. So very mixed price action as time went on. And we're going to be watching to see how more data affects us. Warner Bros. Discovery halted talks with Paramount Global about a potential acquisition. That's some big news for them. There's also news coming out that Apple will wind down on building its EV, and it's going to be focusing more on generative AI, which could open doors to more and more partnerships with like Meta, which is just a possibility, not a guarantee. It's just something I kind of had in mind. On top of this, OpenAI asked a judge to throw out parts of a lawsuit filed last year by the New York Times that accused ChatGPT operator of copyright infringement. So, something that's going on right now when it comes to the legal aspect of open AI and what they're developing. So we'll see how it goes. It's something worth noting. This is still developing in the courts, so we'll see if anything changes, but I'm still waiting for any responses. Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings had its first profitable year since 2019, and they gave us the Q4 earnings. They're up about 20%, and they're continuing to hold up as they had some pretty decent full year earnings, which is not bad whatsoever. So that being said, what's going on with the market so far? Let's just go over this. So looking at SPY, it's not super strong, not super weak. It's kind of in the middle. But like I said earlier, it's trying to base at 505. We'll be watching to see how well it holds this. If we lose 505 and hold below this, we're going to be sinking down to 503.5. If we hold it like we've been for the last 4 hours, there's going to be an attempt to push up higher. This imbalance at 506.7. We could be retesting 507, basically, this resistance up here. So we'll see if SPY could get that break or not, and we'll see how well SPY does, if anything. But I do want to note that from a technical standpoint, Looking at SPY's charts, the odds do favor it pushing higher to at least 506. I do see 506 coming, and maybe even this 506.7 to 507 area up here. So the odds do favor it trying to rebound, but just to be safe, watch and see how well it holds 505 for confirmation. For the triple Q, the QQQ, as you guys can see, it kind of came down a little bit, but it has this gap above to fill all the way up to 437. So if it breaks above 436 and breaks this high at 436.5, it's going to easily get very close to 438 all over again. If it loses 435, a bigger drop is coming to 434 and below. So we'll see how it goes, but it does look like it has potential to try to hold up. Let's see how well it holds. It's still in the range over here. It's not actually out of the range just yet. Came down just a bit, but we'll just see what it does from there. Also want to mention that on the 30 minutes time frame, it's showing some life. Need to see it break 436.28 and start pushing. There is some potential for it to do so. For Tesla stock, Tesla is showing some life right now, especially because of some things Elon Musk said. Musk announced that the Roadster should be coming out by next year, and that's some very, very good news. So Tesla's trying to curl right here. One could argue that this might start to resemble a cup and handle, but we have to see Tesla try to keep going. Can Tesla try to break 202.5? If it does do so, watch 205. If it reaches 205, I expect it to start pushing to 207 and 212 for a bigger pump. If it turns bearish, you need to see Tesla lose 198, 197.5, and eventually 195. If it loses those three supports, a bigger drop is going to be coming to the low 190s. This is trying to curl, it's showing some life for the cup and handle. So we'll see if Tesla can try to break out more. It is looking like it's favoring the bulls slightly more. For Nvidia, in my opinion, is still looking a little bit like it's dropping. We're going to be watching support at 776. If we lose 776, watch 771, and we'll see if it can bounce at one of those levels. It still looks kind of bearish. This is what's dragging the QQQ down. But wait and see if we try to bounce at least one of these levels. So it looks like it might drop a little more. Could reach us 771, then try to bounce. This is where it bounced off last time, so we'll see if we can get a bounce over there. Watch resistance at 785, 790, and then we have above that we have 795 and 800. We'll see if we can get a bounce here. It might come down again and then try to make its way back up to fill this gap. That's 785. So Nvidia might try to bounce a little bit. We have to wait and see. So watch that very carefully. And finally, last but not least, for Aapl stock. Aapl is it has this resistance right now at 182.5. If we break this 183.5, 184.25, and 185 are resistance. Support is 181. Well, we have some support right here. This previous support zone around 181.8, and then we have 181.36, and then 180 below that. We'll see if it comes down and bounces or if it can try to break out. We need to see this thing and try to push higher, try to break above this resistance right here and try pushing to 185 to remain bullish. There's a sign it's trying to reverse, but just to be safe, we have to see it break the high. So watch and see if Apple could bounce. And with that being said, that is it for the majority of these tickers. I also wanted to add SMCI or Supermicro. It's still looking kind of bearish. We'll see if we can try to base around this 814 area right now. We're still actually just barely around we're actually below our 50 EMA, which is a bad sign. So it's still downtrending, could drop a little bit more towards 814 and 800, but watch to see if it could bounce off that range. So it might drop a little bit more than attempts to bounce. That is it for now. We're seeing some stocks showing life. Amazon's down a little bit, Meta as well. But we'll see if the market can get that bounce a little bit later on. I'm just going to be very patient for now and we'll see how it goes. Anyways, thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you, and peace out.